Nuclear weapons sit at the dark edge of human capability, silent, dormant, unimaginable in their destructive power. For decades, they have shaped global politics, military strategy, and international diplomacy. And yet, despite treaties, safeguards, and deterrence systems, the world still asks one chilling question: which country is most likely to launch a nuclear weapon first? This question is terrifying, and it's also dangerously easy to misunderstand. The truth is that no nation publicly claims an intention to start a nuclear war, and no expert will responsibly tell you that any specific country wants to. What we can do, however, is break down the geopolitical pressure points, risk factors, nuclear doctrines, and historical patterns that help analysts understand where and how nuclear escalation is most likely to begin. And as you'll discover, the answer isn't about villains or aggressors, it's about accidents, miscalculations, and deeply rooted tensions that sometimes sit quietly beneath the surface of global politics. To truly understand nuclear risk, we need to start with the concept of deterrence. Since the Cold War, nuclear strategy has been shaped by mutually assured destruction and the idea that no state would use nuclear weapons because doing so would guarantee its own annihilation. For decades, this logic held the world in a tense but stable balance. But modern nuclear risk is no longer defined only by superpowers like the United States and Russia. Today, nuclear weapons exist in regions with border disputes, territorial conflicts, political instability, and fast-evolving military doctrines. The more complex the system becomes, the higher the chance that something unpredictable could happen. So instead of asking who will launch first, the responsible question is, where are the triggers that could, under extreme conditions, lead to nuclear escalation? And that leads us to 5 major categories of nuclear risk. The first category is great power tension. The world's 2 largest nuclear arsenals still belong to the United States and Russia, despite the end of the Cold War. Both nations maintain thousands of warheads and sophisticated delivery systems, while neither side wants nuclear war. History shows that tense periods such as the Cuban Missile Crisis create conditions where miscalculation becomes a real danger. When large militaries operate near each other, when communication breaks down, or when geopolitical disputes sharpen, the risk isn't intentional use, but accidental escalation. Analysts track these relationships closely not because either country wants conflict, but because the scale of their arsenals means even a single misunderstanding could be catastrophic. The second category is regional nuclear rivalries. One of the most closely watched is the India-Pakistan relationship. These 2 countries have fought multiple wars, share a disputed border in Kashmir, and maintain rapid response military postures, and like the US and Russia, whose central tensions have stabilized over time. India and Pakistan periodically experience intense flare-ups in such a volatile environment. Experts worry not about deliberate nuclear attacks, but about conventional conflicts escalating out of control. A tactical misstep, a border clash, or misinformation during a crisis could theoretically shorten decision-making time and raise the risk of weapons being considered. The third category involves rising global powers and strategic ambiguity. China, for example, maintains a significantly smaller nuclear arsenal compared to the United States or Russia. For decades, China has claimed a no-first-use policy, a pledge not to initiate nuclear conflict. However, as China's regional influence grows, so do tensions around areas like Taiwan and the South China Sea. The concern isn't that China intends to launch nuclear weapons first, but that changing military doctrines, expanding capabilities, and shifting global rivalries can introduce uncertainty in how states interpret each other's actions. Uncertainty is one of the biggest drivers of escalation risk. The fourth category involves smaller nuclear-armed states with unresolved conflicts. North Korea is one of the most discussed examples. And like the major powers, North Korea's nuclear doctrine is less transparent, and its political system is more unpredictable. Its geography places it near key U.S. allies, and its missile tests often lead to heightened global concern. Again, this does not mean North Korea plans to use nuclear weapons first, but its isolation, rhetorical style, and conflict history make it a central focus in risk assessments. The fifth category is perhaps the most underrated: accidents, false alarms, and system failures. Several times in history, nuclear war almost began by mistake. In 1983, a Soviet satellite mistakenly detected incoming U.S. missiles. One officer, Stanislav Petrov, chose not to report the alert as an attack, preventing a potential launch response. In 1995, Russia mistook a Norwegian scientific rocket for a U.S. missile, prompting emergency steps that nearly escalated. During the Cold War, both sides experienced computer glitches, radar errors, and communication failures. None of these incidents were intentional. All of them came precariously close to triggering a catastrophic chain reaction. When we talk about nuclear risk today, experts don't look at intentions, they look at pressure points, doctrines, response times, and the complexity of decision-making systems. So the real question becomes, which conditions could lead to nuclear escalation? The first major trigger is border conflict. Regions with active disputes such as the Korean Peninsula, the South China Sea, Eastern Europe, and parts of South Asia naturally draw more attention. Places where opposing militaries operate in close proximity face a greater chance of misinterpretation or accidental fire. History tells us that wars often start not with grand strategies but with sudden, unexpected sparks. The second trigger is political uncertainty. Leadership transitions, internal crises, or sudden shifts in government posture can destabilize a nation's decision-making process. In nuclear-armed states, instability creates unclear communication channels, which raises the risk that signals could be misunderstood. The third trigger is cyber interference. In the modern world, hacking is a serious concern. If a state's early warning system is compromised, whether by accident or by a hostile actor, it could misread data or fail to detect real threats. This creates new vulnerabilities that did not exist during the Cold War. The fourth trigger involves new technologies. Hypersonic missiles, artificial intelligence, and advanced surveillance tools are accelerating reaction times. Shorter decision windows increase the chance that leaders feel pressured to act quickly, which is dangerous when nuclear weapons are involved. And finally, the fifth trigger is the erosion of arms control agreements. After decades of treaties that limited nuclear testing, reduced arsenals, and improved communication, many of these agreements have weakened or expired. Fewer agreements mean less transparency, and less transparency means greater risk. So after all of this, what's the answer? Which country is most likely to launch nukes first? The truth, the responsible truth, is that no country wants to start a nuclear war. The actual danger lies in misunderstandings, regional conflicts, accidental escalations, and failing communication. It is not about pointing fingers, it is about understanding the systems that keep the world safe, and the ways those systems can fail. In a world of rising tensions, the most important thing we can do is understand these risks clearly. Nuclear weapons are not just about power, they're about responsibility. And the more the world understands the conditions that create danger, the better chance we have of ensuring that none of these weapons ever leave their silos. If you found this deep dive helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more global analysis videos, and let me know which geopolitical topic you want next. The more we understand the world, the safer we all become. This video is for educational purposes only and does not accuse any nation of intent, nor does it promote fear, conflict, or speculation. Nuclear decisions are complex, tightly controlled, and heavily safeguarded. This content exists solely to encourage awareness and responsible discussion.